Shabbat Shalom. In this week's Torah portion, we find the content that vexes B'nai Mitzvah students from all time and space, because it has to do with leprosy and skin disease and bodily emissions, all kinds of things that might make a person spiritually impure and from which they would have to go and purify themselves in order to be fully, participating members of the Jewish community. And nowhere is this most relevant and most evident than in the conversation around leprosy. It's a translation of leprosy, but the Torah, in fact, it just calls it this skin disease, this skin affectation, that probably doesn't have to do anything with the modern day affliction that we understand to be leprosy. But either way, there's no real explanation as to why this kind of skin disease comes upon a person. It's not understood in medical terms or like a plague, and the Torah does know about plagues and disease. This is less categorizable as a physical ailment or if it has a physical source, but rather it has a spiritual, emotional source that plays out in this kind of skin disease. And the reason they say this is because they look to other places, the rabbis look to other places in Tanakh, in instances where a person contracts this kind of leprosy, tzara'at, we learn in Hebrew, and the quintessential place is a time when Miriam and Aaron were speaking words of gossip, words of lashon hara, against Moses' wife Tzipporah. They were saying things that were potentially vaguely racist about her. Certainly, she was not a Jewish person by birth. She married into the tradition, right? So they were saying not so nice things about her. And immediately upon this happening, God causes Miriam to contract this leprosy, and she is isolated from the rest of the community. She's brought outside the camp. Leprosy was a very virulent kind of impurity. And from this, our tradition understands that when we're thinking about these difficult to understand concepts like purity and impurity, that perhaps we can think about them on a spiritual level. That when we speak words of gossip about another person, whether it's slanderous gossip or even we're just saying things the news that is not our news to share, that can have a really deleterious effect upon ourselves, sort of as who we are as people, and can have a really deleterious effect upon community. That when we are sharing either secrets or, speaking behind people's backs, we're not saying the things that we wanted to say in front of other people with authenticity. And that can have really painful consequences. Anybody who's been through middle school, and I imagine that anyone who's watching this video has had this experience, knows the painful experience of gossip, having participated in it and been the victim of it. So I hope that as we're thinking about forms of purity and impurity, that we incorporate our actions and how they might impact who we are as people. We're coming up on Passover. It's time to get rid of that spiritual schmutz as we get rid of chametz. So maybe we can also think a little bit about how we are getting rid of lashon hara, about gossip, from our spiritual life as well. Shabbat Shalom.